Ever wondered what happens when an Amish family loses everything? Their barn, their harvest, their breadwinner, with no insurance, no government aid, and no safety net? What activates instead is something the modern world has spent 100 years trying to replace and never quite managed to: the deliberate opt-out. The Amish have deliberately opted out of almost every financial safety net the modern world offers. No Social Security, no Medicare, no commercial health insurance, no government assistance programs. In 1965, the United States government formally codified this exemption into law, recognizing that the Amish had built their own support system and did not need the government's. This is not poverty. This is not ignorance. This is a deliberate theological decision. The Amish believe that depending on outside institutions weakens the bonds that hold a community together. If you know the government will catch you when you fall, you have less reason to catch your neighbor. The Amish rejected that logic entirely. They chose to remain completely responsible for each other, which means that when one family falls, every family around them feels it, responds to it, and closes the gap. That is the foundation. Now look at what it produces when things go wrong. Crisis 1. The barn raising. It is after midnight. A lightning strike, a spark from the hay, faulty old wiring. The cause almost doesn't matter. By morning, the barn is gone. In the modern world, this is where the waiting begins. For an Amish family, the waiting never starts. Before the firefighters have packed up their equipment, the community is already organizing. By the following morning, the deacon has contacted every family in the church district. Materials are sourced from 12 different sawmills. Lumber is donated, tools are brought, and on the day of the raising, hundreds of men arrive at first light, some from miles away, some who have never met the family whose barn burned down. The raising begins with a prayer. Men divide by skill: framers, carpenters, roofers, laborers. Children carry water to the workers. Women prepare enormous meals through the day. By noon, the frame is standing. By sunset, the structure is complete, fully functional, ready to shelter livestock again. One day, hundreds of people, zero cost to the family. And the hardest part, according to those who received this help, is not the loss. It is accepting generosity. As one community member put it, they can never pay it back, and people don't want them to pay it back. Crisis 3. Death, the husband dies. Unexpectedly, at 52, from a heart attack in the field, he leaves behind a wife, 7 children, a farm, and a mortgage that was being paid by his labor. In the modern world, this is where the paperwork begins: the death certificate, the life insurance claim, if there was one, the Social Security survivor benefits, the estate, the will. A process that stretches across months while a family tries to figure out how to survive without the person who held everything together. In an Amish community, the response begins within hours. Community members arrive at the home immediately, not to manage paperwork, but to be present, to sit with the widow, to bring food, to take the children for a few hours so she can breathe. The visits are consistent and frequent in the days and weeks that follow because the Amish understand that grief does not end after the funeral, and isolation in grief is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a person. But the support is not only emotional, it is deeply practical. The farm does not stop because the farmer died. Crops still need tending, animals still need feeding, fences still need repairing, and so the community takes over. Men from the church district appear to do the chores the widow cannot manage alone. If the harvest is coming, neighbors organize to bring it in. If there are financial debts, the bishop becomes involved, helping the family manage what they owe, sometimes arranging for community members to assist with payments. And then, in time, there is the matter of remarriage. Among the Amish, remarriage after the death of a spouse is not only accepted, it is quietly encouraged. Not out of disrespect for the person who died, but out of a practical recognition that a farm and a large family require two adults to function. The community supports this transition, and it is not uncommon for a widow or widower to remarry within a year or two of losing a spouse. The community does not abandon a family at the graveside. It walks with them through everything that comes after. Crisis 4: Mental illness. This is the crisis the Amish do not talk about openly, but they have built a system for it. Mental illness exists in Amish communities. Depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder. These conditions do not exempt themselves from a community simply because that community lives plainly. And for many years, the Amish had limited language and limited resources for addressing them. But something was built in response to that need. It is called People's Helpers, an Amish organized network of mental health caregivers operating within the community. These are not licensed therapists in the clinical sense. They are community members trained to recognize when someone is struggling beyond what ordinary support can address, and equipped to connect that person with professional counselors who have experience working with Amish families. They also help find work arrangements within the community that accommodate a person's functional level. Because for the Amish, the ability to contribute meaningfully to the community is itself part of what sustains mental health. The approach is not to remove a struggling person from their community and place them in an institution. It is to wrap the community more tightly around them, more visits, more presence, more practical support, while quietly connecting them with whatever professional help they need. It is imperfect. The Amish, like any community, can struggle to talk openly about mental suffering, and the stigma that exists in the wider world exists here too in different forms. But the infrastructure is real, and it was built by the community itself, for the community itself, because the community recognized the need and responded to it, the same way it responds to every other crisis. Crisis 5: Financial failure. A young farmer makes poor decisions, or the land prices have risen so dramatically that his farm is underwater, or a business deal goes badly and he cannot recover the loss. In the modern world, this ends in bankruptcy court, in collections calls, in a credit score that follows a family for years. In an Amish community, it ends with a visit from the bishop. When a family finds itself in serious financial trouble, the church steps in, not as a lender of last resort, but as an active manager of the problem. The bishop will meet with the family to understand what went wrong and help them develop a plan to recover. Successful Amish businessmen within the community may offer loans, informal, community-based arrangements with the understanding that the church will hold the borrower accountable. If money is owed to another Amish person and is not being repaid, a letter to the borrower's bishop is often all it takes to resolve the situation. The children's wages also play a role that might surprise outsiders. In Amish culture, children who begin working outside the home bring their paychecks back to the family until they turn 21. This is not coercion. It is an understood arrangement, part of the mutual contribution that defines Amish family life. In difficult years, those wages are what keep the household afloat, while the adults work to stabilize the situation. What the community will not do is allow a family to fail quietly and alone. Financial trouble, like every other kind of trouble, is a community concern, because a family that collapses puts pressure on everyone around them, and because the values of the Ordnung demand that no member be left to face ruin without support. The everyday version. Here is what people miss when they only look at the dramatic crises. The mutual aid system is not something the Amish activate in emergencies. It runs all the time. It runs when siblings gather monthly for what the Amish call a frolic, an informal work gathering for sewing, house cleaning, canning tomatoes or shelling peas. It runs when a family moves and dozens of hands appear to carry furniture without being asked. It runs when a young couple gets married and neighbors organize to paint their house before they move in. It runs when parents gather every year to clean the one-room schoolhouse before the new academic year begins. An injured farmer will usually find his crops harvested by his neighbors before he has had a chance to ask for help. A widow will find her firewood stacked before winter arrives. A new mother will find meals appearing at her door for weeks after the birth. This is not extraordinary behavior in an Amish community. It is ordinary. It is the baseline, the constant, low-level hum of people taking care of each other that makes the dramatic barn raising possible, because the relationships and the habits and the trust required for that kind of collective action are already in place before the crisis ever arrives.